The rookie quarterbacks got their feet wet. Who rose? Who's falling? Who do we still need to see more from? Who stood out around the league at the other positions? Maybe some pass catchers, maybe some guy that stopped some passes. We're looking forward all the day on Locked On NFL Draft.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another episode of the Locked On NFL Draft Show. I'm your host, former NFL and AFL defensive back, Eric Crocker. And of course, we want to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Got my co-host with me as usual, Ryan Tracy at Ryan Tracy NFL. And of course, you can find me at Eric_Crocker on Twitter. Also, we want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. And speaking of games starting, Ryan, plenty of games starting now. Preseason, everyone has played, and we got to start with the quarterbacks. That's been a hot topic. We touched on Malik Willis, kind of circling back to his performance. When we were here, we weren't able to catch everything. I definitely saw the beginning. I saw some splash plays, but there was some misses. There were some things that his coach was concerned about as well. Kind of pulled him from the game and said, if he's not going to throw the ball, we're not going to have him out there. So Coach Vrabel, a little tough on the young guy. And also we had Bailey Zappi that same evening. He did well, finished strong, right? Is that something that you took away from his performance?
Yeah, I thought it was an iffy proposition on the ball he threw into coverage. They ended up getting intercepted, but I thought he recovered from that, ended up playing well. I think he showed, again, that decisiveness, the release, those things. So you have to expect the ups and downs from the rookies, right? And I think those two guys really accentuated exactly what a first preseason game looks like for most rookies. I think everybody had their little bits and pieces, but those guys playing early, I think, certainly illustrated that. Now, some guys had better outings, and some guys had some worse ones. I was pleasantly surprised to see that Pickett, I think, played pretty well. I know you got to watch a lot of that one. Like, what was your takeaway from his performance?
Well, the first thing was, and I watched him throw him with the gloves on. I'm like, I don't think the hand size has been an issue for him in this game. I thought he threw the ball well, moved around well. I think the receivers definitely help having those type of guys that are able to really make plays for you out there in Pittsburgh. But overall, I didn't see anything that I wasn't, I guess, expecting to see from him. He looked like Kenny Pickett at Pittsburgh, which is a good thing, right? I mean, this is a guy who threw for a lot of touchdowns, threw for a lot of yards, had guys that were big-time playmakers, but nothing jumped out too, I guess, great one way or other, but extremely efficient, as you can see by looking at the stat line.
Right. That was what stood out to me, like 86% completion rate. Like, that's significant. I like that. Skylar Thompson had a good time out as well. He was over 70% completion percentage. And then it was into like Zappi and Anthony Brown. And so really it then falls to the other big name, the one that you and I have been watching quite a bit. And that's Desmond Ridder, who I thought had a little bit of issue early again, but I felt he recovered through that ball game too. His stat line didn't look that great. Only like 10 completions on 22 attempts, but 2 touchdowns, moved the ball, used his legs, I think, more like you and I expected, but a lot of fans were surprised at just how well he moved the ball around running it.
Yeah, he moved running, and this was his unofficial 40 time was in the 4.4s. And then obviously when the official one came out, he was a 4.5 guy. I thought he started a little slow, and maybe the game was moving a little fast for him. He threw an interception early on that was eventually overturned. But down the stretch, I thought he started to settle down. You see him completing passes, and obviously like the game-winning touchdown pass, which was more of kind of a scramble drill type play. But I think that was a good starting point for Desmond Ridder to really kind of get going, get his feet wet, understand the speed of the game, and then see if he can build off of that. But the ability is clearly there. Some of the issues that people had with him pre-draft process, those things kind of arose a little bit. So I think the main thing for me is trying to see, like, can he settle down a little bit? And if so, he'll be all right. Who did do well for them, and hey, unfortunately, and we'll find out, have we heard about the injury from Drake London yet? Maybe I should look that up, but
I have not
Drake
seen
London,
an update.
Yeah, Drake London had a nice catch on the first drive, and I was watching him. He caught the ball from Marcus Mariota, he looked pretty sweet. And then eventually, right knee injury he sustained during ATL's practice. So, I mean, I guess they're just saying there's a right knee injury, but doesn't sound like it's anything that's going to keep him out too long. So that's good news on the update from Drake London, but caught a pass, I think it was about 24, 25-yard crossing route on the first play, got tackled, kind of banged his knee up a little bit. We'll see when he's able to kind of return and what type of impact he can have. But Marcus Mariota, he looked good for them. Obviously not a rookie quarterback, but going back to the rookie quarterbacks, and we'll talk about this last one here, Matt Corral. Can you read Matt Corral's stat line? Because there was one play, and I got around to watching the game, but there was one clip that continuously jumped out. Or I don't even want to say jumped out. It was kind of floating around.
There's a reason.
It was his very first attempt. It was like Matt Corral completes his first pass. It was like 12 yards. And then he didn't complete another pass for the entire game. He was running for his life. I mean, he got his helmet ripped off, but ultimately led a game-winning drive. So some of your thoughts on just reading kind of like his stat line and what to expect from him moving forward. A guy who has a lot of talent, and some people are thinking potentially would be one of the better quarterbacks from this class.
I still think he's got that potential. I think obviously the trade and Baker playing in front of him now, that changes all that, because he's not going to get the developmental reps that he needs in order to make progress as a rookie. To tell you the truth, Mahomes didn't get that his first season either. Alex Smith was a starter, and Alex didn't get starter rep, and he wasn't able to do that. He had to do things on his own. I think Matt Corral's going to have to do that. Matt, his game of being the opposite of a lot of guys that we talked about, he started real hot, nice completion to start off, and wasn't able to get it back there. But like you said, a lot of the reason that you invest in Matt Corral is his leadership. And moving the ball enough to put together a field goal to win a ball game, even if it is just the first preseason game of your rookie NFL season, that still is something that coaches can take away from and feel like this guy has got something to offer us. We have to continue to develop him. But behind the other quarterbacks on that team, it's going to take a while.
It is going to take a while. And you really said something key there. And I tried to explain this to some Packer fans over the weekend. Obviously, Jordan Love, he's been with the Packers now. This is his third year. Not a rookie, but he's been sitting behind, he's been sitting behind Aaron Rodgers. And obviously with Jordan Love being a first round pick, people want to see, him come in and just look like that. But I'm like, man, he needs the reps, and he needs the live reps. Like, he needs to see things live, understand the speed of the game, what he can and can't do. And when you're sitting behind Aaron Rodgers, you don't really have the luxury to really be able to play through your mistakes, and the team still have like a lot of faith in you. It's like you make a mistake, and it's like, well, it doesn't matter if he makes a mistake because you got Aaron Rodgers, back-to-back MVPs over the last couple years. And I think that it can kind of hurt a guy's development a little bit. You need to go through the ups and downs, but still have the backing of your program. And Jordan Love didn't have that. We'll see if Matt Corral ends up having that. But being a guy who is a third-round pick, it's a little unlikely. When we come back, there's some other guys who ended up making plays we want to touch on that are non-quarterbacks, all right? But first, we want to talk to you about our good folks over at BetterHelp. We've all had different times in our lives where it kind of threw you a curveball, and you always want someone that can help you go through it all. I know my wife and I, we went through a situation, and we didn't have anyone to talk to, but you don't have to go down the same path that we do because there is BetterHelp. Life is full of twists and turns, and it's important to show up for yourself through it all. BetterHelp Online Therapy will assess your needs and can match you with your own licensed professional therapist in less than 48 hours. All right. It's not a crisis line. It's not self-help. It's professional therapy done securely online, and it's available for people worldwide. You can log into your account anytime and send a message to your therapist. You can schedule weekly video or phone sessions, and you don't have to be on camera if you don't want to, and you're still going to get the therapy every week. It's as easy as a few clicks on your laptop or on your phone. With therapy, it can take a few tries to find the right person that's for you, but BetterHelp, they make it easy and free of charge for therapists in need. It's more affordable than your traditional offline therapy, and financial aid is also available. You just need to visit the website and read their testimonials that are posted daily. All right. In fact, so many people, they've been using BetterHelp that they are recruiting additional therapists in all 50 states. Listen, y'all, they have a special offer for all of our Locked On NFL Draft listeners. You're going to get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/locked-on. That's 10% off of your first month of online therapy at betterhelp.com/locked-on. All right, Ryan, let's talk about some of the guys who continue to make plays, starting off rookies. And I think the first person we have to go to is George Pickens. There's been a lot of talk about George Pickens. We've discussed him on this, and it's like, man, George Pickens, he's going crazy. And they have other receivers there, but it almost sounds like they're kind of pushing him to be the guy. And they get in the game, and they were throwing it to him early and often. Matter of fact, the first passing attempt went to him on the left sideline. Now, there's no Deontay Johnson. All their veteran receivers were not playing. But for the rookie, he was the alpha guy. They went to him early and often. He caught a touchdown in the corner in the end zone against the Seattle Seahawks, beating Kobe Bryant down there in the corner. But a guy who showed big-time play-making ability. He carried himself the right way. He looked to be that alpha dog. Are you expecting him to potentially be the wide receiver one? Because I know there's Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, these other guys, but sounds like they're setting him up to be the guy.
It's interesting. Like I find it very difficult to think that he can walk in there and become that as a rookie. But I'm generally the skepticist, right? Like that's tough to do. It's hard to make that projection, especially after knowing that he played very limited snaps last season and he's still got the physicality part going. But I think in the end, because you're going to get, I think, coverage attention over a Chase Claypool as well as Deontay Johnson, maybe that is something that he can become. The question is how often and how many different ways can you use him? I think that's what's key to bringing him along to the point where maybe he can be your wide receiver one. That's going to be really interesting because I see Chase Claypool as a guy that, unfortunately, I don't think he's had a nice smooth curve up to his potential. I think he's still got a lot of upside in him. So hopefully this is this little bit of a kick to kind of put that into gear because I think he's got a lot of room to still get better.
And obviously everyone knows about all the touchdowns that Chase Claypool scored as a rookie. I believe it was 10 touchdowns. Then he followed that up with 2 the following season. And Deontay Johnson just got paid. So we'll see what George Pickens falls in that. Another receiver that showed out, Buffaloes. And I know we got to get to Khalil Shakir, but shout out to my guy, Isaiah Hodgins. He had like 9 receptions on the day, caught passes, especially like the last 2 drives of the game. He's catching passes left to right. I'm like, go ahead, man. Go ahead. I remember him when he was a youngster playing against him 7-on-7. He's worked out at our facility out there in California. So shout out to Isaiah Hodgins doing his thing. But Khalil Shakir, the draft pick, he looked good. He was making catches in traffic, bouncing off of guys. And what can we expect of him? Can he potentially be the third receiver there? Because they had Gabriel Davis. Obviously, we know they have Stephon Diggs. There's Emmanuel Sanders. But can he push to be that third guy?
I think so because he got much as George did in Pittsburgh. He got the treatment. They fed him first pass. They fed him as often as they could. I think they're looking to see just how much they could squeeze out of him to start with, because I think that they can see a future where he is at least their third receiver. Like, obviously, we don't need to look too much farther than the coming season here in a couple of weeks. But when you look, Gabe Davis, okay, great. Isaiah McKenzie's on that roster too, and that sometimes I think slips not only my mind but a lot of people's. But I think that that's open. I do believe that he can become the third this season.
Some other guys that made plays, Jaquan Brisker. I was watching the Chicago Bears trying to see, checking in on Justin Fields and what he's doing, and had an up-and-down performance. A lot of pressure on him, a lot on his shoulders. But on the other side of the field, this is a guy by the name of Jaquan Brisker, rookie safety out of Penn State. And there was one possession I'm watching, and they're like, all right, Jaquan Brisker with the pass breakup. Okay, nice. Jaquan Brisker with the tackle at the line of scrimmage. Okay, nice. Jaquan Brisker with the pass breakup on third down. I'm like, wait a minute.
How many Jaquan Briskers are there?
he single-handedly created a 3-and-out by himself. And then they continue to get that with him wearing that number 9 jersey at the safety position. We're talking about somebody who's going to be big time for this defense. So shout out to Jaquan Brisker. Wanted to give him his flowers, not just for that possession, but just for a guy who, had high expectations heading into the season. And right now it sounds like early on, and again, we have to preference this with all of these guys. They are playing against backups. But
sure,
these are guys who are they're trying to get their feet wet All right, they're trying to figure out the game. So if they have to do it while going up against other guys that are kind of in the same realm as them and they end up standing out, that's a good thing. And I think that's what Jaquan Brisker did.
Yeah, that's exactly my thought. Like I like Brisker on film. I thought he looked just as good as a Bear. And this is a game that I covered because they were playing the Kansas City Chiefs. So I got to watch every snap that he played. And it was impressive just how easy the transition looked. And the player, like, he didn't change his characteristics. So now it's, can he up that just one more level and do that against the first stringers and the guys that are going to be trying to, like, really take out and take advantage of some of his traits? I'm really high on him. I love Jimmy Mack's number being on a safety, by the way. That's always a nice thing for an ex-Bears fan like me. I think he's got really the best start of anybody that I really saw playing out of the DB section, a guy that can come into the box. I was really happy with his game. One other shout out, both Dominique Robinson and Charles Snowden had some go there in the Bears game that I thought they showed a little bit of upmanship. Maybe they can get in and help that pass rush.
We talked about Jaquan Brisker, safety out of Penn State. Nick Cross, he was another safety that's kind of lumped him in that same range as him. He had a really good game for the Indianapolis Colts, was the second highest graded player on that team in that game. And one other rookie wanted to throw out there before we get into some of the players from our team, but Boye Mafe got a sack strip of a quarterback. So he forced a fumble on the sack. Good stuff by our guy Boye Mafe out of Minnesota. Had to give him his flowers too. And we're going to get to some other guys from some teams that we cover. The Kansas City Chiefs, the 49ers, who stood out, what rookies, what did they do? We're going to talk about that next. But first, we want to let you know that BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all of your betting needs. Find your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news of every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, and esports as well. They even have golf. All right. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports wagering information, from live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts. They got you covered with all of that. Head over right now to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to learn more about the actions happening today at BetOnline, where the game starts. Kansas City Chiefs. I was watching the game. I'm watching it live. First of all, you have your quarterback going out there. Not fair. Patrick Mahomes just slicing and dicing, going down through a touchdown pass to Blake Bell, I believe it was. Blake Bell has some, little relationship with the 49ers. He was drafted by the San Francisco 49ers coming out. I believe he was a quarterback before converting to a tight end. But anyways, it was cheating having Patrick Mahomes out there. But outside of him, I'm watching the rookies, and you have Trent McDuffie out there. You have Isaiah Pacheco. All right. I see Sky Moore, and he's returning punts between him and Trent McDuffie. So what stood out to you about some of the rookies for the Kansas City Chiefs?
Yeah, I think on the offensive side, there's a lot there. For you fantasy players, you want to grab Isaiah Pacheco. He looks like he's pushing to become the backup. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has not been a guy that stayed healthy through his career to this point, so you might have an option there. I thought Sky Moore looks more advanced than anyone could have expected. Not only did he run multiple sets, multiple ways to get in the ball, a lot of jet action. They're going to throw in those pop passes. But in the field, very spatially aware, toe tapper, had to drag his toes to get that reception in. And what really made the play for me is not only was he physically capable of doing that, but he goes right to the ref, the side judge, to make sure that guy saw it and was going to get the call in and wasn't going to stand back and say, oh, I'm not sure. Like, very heady play from the rookie to go get his call when he knows it's there waiting for him. I was really impressed with him.
With the 49ers, covering the 49ers, man, they had some rookies that really not just made some splash plays, but really impressed. Starting off with that right guard, Spencer Buford. And we talked about him heading into the preseason game, a guy who's taken every single first-team rep at right guard. He's a guy who played offensive tackle at UTSA. In his early years, the first couple years, he did play guard, but made that transition to tackle. Now making that transition back to guard for the San Francisco 49ers, and he has done a terrific job. And we were very interested to see, will that carry over to the preseason game? Well, it did. He was really good inside. Now, it's not like he had to go up against Kenny Clark and some of these guys the Green Bay Packers, but with the guys that he did go up against, he dominated. He finished his blocks extremely well, threw guys to the ground. I don't think you could have expected anything more or better from Spencer Buford in his debut for the San Francisco 49ers. That was terrific. Another guy who really stood out for the 49ers, Samuel Womack, cornerback out of Toledo. And one thing the 49ers have been able to do very well is find these guys in the 4th and 5th rounds and really hit. I just talked about Spencer Buford. He was a 4th round pick. They followed up in the 5th round, Samuel Womack. And Womack had 2 interceptions. And not just 2 picks where, the quarterback threw it right to him or it was a bounce off of somebody's hands and he was there in the right place, right time and got an interception. He went out there. He made the plays. He ripped the ball out of a receiver's hands for 1 interception. The other one, he undercut a route. He did a terrific job of really not getting out of position, undercutting the route, picking it off, and then returning it for 50 yards. He did a really good job there. And then obviously Danny Gray, he had the splash play of the day with the 76-yard touchdown reception from Trey Lance down the left sideline. So 49ers rookies, they had 3 guys that really stood out, played very well. And they probably couldn't ask for more from those 3 guys with their contributions.
Yeah, I agree. And a couple of other guys stood out to me around the league as well. One at the linebacker level, Mike McFadden, a guy that I think was drafted too low, put in, 32 snaps for the Giants, and I thought played well. Got a little bit of pressure. You saw him in coverage. I thought he played great. I was really happy to see that. Channing Tindall had a good day out. And honestly, when it comes to creating pressure, there were a couple of guys that got up for 5, even maybe 7 pressures in the game. But none of them, I think, were as efficient as Travis Jones. 23 total snaps, got 2 pressures, a sack, 2 run stops. He was everywhere for the Ravens, and I thought that was really indicative of what we expected to see, a guy that's that nimble, that's that explosive. I'm looking for big things from Travis Jones.
Big-time rookies around the league, and we're going to continue to track all of those guys and see exactly how they're doing. If there's a rookie that you want us to discuss, you want us to dive into their film and see how they did, let us know either in the comments on YouTube. Make sure you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel. Whether it's on Twitter, you can find us at Eric_Crocker or at Ryan Tracy NFL, or leave a review and we'll read those as well. We definitely want to thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen of the day. Now make Locked On Fantasy Football your second listen of the day. Find the intellectual fantasy expert Vinny, who brings you over 20 years of NFL expertise and unique angle to give you the moves no one else has. All right, get ready for your fantasy draft with Locked On Fantasy Football today. But that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On NFL Draft. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace.